Welcome back into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center for a rapid reaction practice report, whatever you want to call it. Just don't call us late for dinner. That's Tim May, the 41-year veteran. Yep, 41. He's on to 41, folks. And Andy Backstrom, you know him, you love him. I'm Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let's get into it as we just talked to James Laurinaitis, the new Ohio State linebackers coach, and Matt Guerrieri, the new Ohio State safeties coach, the first time they've stepped up to the mic as full-time Ohio State assistant coaches. Tim, what'd you learn?
Yeah, I learned that what we already knew, that for James Laurinaitis to go from the role he was in last year to now a full-time assistant coach, he basically, in front of Ryan Day, had to prove he could recruit, for want of another term. And like he's talked about that first recruiting trip they went on, and Ryan's with him, and it's all about the presentation, right? It's all about the presentation. And obviously James, as those trips ensued, he proved himself from a presentation standpoint. He also proved himself from a logistics standpoint of, you may have on your eye, like you fly into Dallas-Fort Worth, there's 1 million football players that you might be looking at in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In one day, how many can you get to in one day from a driving and then pressing the flesh aspect of it, and just the logistics of doing those kind of things, which a lot of people don't even think about. He learned about. So he proved himself that we already knew he knew football. We already knew he could coach based on last year, right? As far as bringing guys along, could he recruit? Would he embrace recruiting is more the term. And he proved himself, at least around Day, he was capable of that. And here he is, full-time assistant coach before he's age 40.
What'd you learn, Andy?
Talked to Matt Guerrieri, and the two words that come up are familiarity and comfort for him. He was in this building in 2022 as a senior advisor and analyst. Now he's back after a couple jobs, first at Tulsa briefly as a defensive coordinator, then moved over to Bloomington, Indiana.
Briefly.
Yes, as the co-DC there. Exactly, yeah, very, very short stay there. But then he was in Indiana for the full season under Tom Allen, working as a co-DC and safeties coach. Now he's just a safeties coach at Ohio State. He said that, there's not a better place to be for him than under Jim Knowles. He's known him for years and years and years, even when he was a Division II coach. Now he is here at Ohio State, back with him. He was with Jim Knowles at Duke for 6 years, and they were together here in 2022. He helped with that transition Jim Knowles made from Oklahoma State here to Ohio State. The most important thing for Matt Guerrieri is going to be recruiting, because this past defense he's walking into is already #1 in the country. It is stacked with talent. And for him, it's how can I prioritize relationships? How can I make the most of those relationships? And how can I show recruits what I can offer and what the school can offer? And I think that was the thing that stood out the most.
Yeah, well, both of you guys bring up good points about the coaching. I have my eye on some on-field issues that both of these guys now have to address, and most notably Sonny Styles. I'll be writing about him at lettermenrow.com later this afternoon. Look, guys, both of these coaches were pretty diplomatic, and I told James I was appreciative of how diplomatic he was in answering the "is Sonny Styles moving to the linebacker room" question. We still don't officially know, but the way James Laurinaitis talked about it, well, he has a unique skill set, and we have to find the way best to use him on the field. Sounds to me like there's a transition in progress, but nobody wants to say, and that's fine. They're going to go through spring practice, but he is squarely in the spotlight, and by proxy, both of those position coaches are, because he's one of those guys you don't want to mess up. You don't want to get him in the wrong position. You don't want to have him playing out of his comfort zone. So for Matt Guerrieri and James Laurinaitis and Jim Knowles, that is so important the next couple weeks to start spring ball and get him in a place that is comfortable. And I appreciate both of them being honest about it while also not just coming out and saying it and giving up the whole plot.
Yeah. They don't want Sonny to feel like a piece of taffy being pulled in different directions, et cetera. And it was really funny how James said, several times last year, it was like they rolled him up there almost like a hanging Sam linebacker. So they've already it's almost like they need to have another coach just coaching Sonny Styles, and whatever. Coach, what do you need from him this week? Okay, then he's going to zero in on that. But it would be interesting to didn't even ask this question. Like I'm not sure we'd have been told the answer. Whose room is he hanging out in the most right now?
Yeah,
I would think it's probably still the safety room. I don't know, but the safety room's got its own situation going on with Caleb Downs coming in and Lathan Ransom coming back, et cetera. So right on down that line. So I think Sonny Styles is the more interesting question about this defense in the spring than anything else.
Yeah, and then you've got a safety room that's, It's loaded, Andy. What did Matt Guerrieri say about his safety room?
Well, first of all, Lathan Ransom, Matt Guerrieri and him have a tight relationship. They worked a lot with each other back in 2022. Lathan Ransom's doing well. You didn't get into specifics about the timeline of his recovery, but it seems like he's doing things with the team and getting back after he had that season-ending injury at Wisconsin last year, the no-contact lower leg injury. So it seems like he's getting back on track. He's
late in the game.
Right, yeah. I mean, he's had a lot of hardship.
That's when those always happen, right?
Exactly. He's had a lot of hardship in his career, but he's always bounced back. Now he's doing it, coming back for a final year. He also mentioned Malik Hartford coming along well. Spencer talked a lot about him last year. We kind of saw his progression coming in as an early enrollee and then developing into a guy who started 2 games for Ohio State at safety. And then, of course, Caleb Downs. I mean, Matt Guerrieri takes the job. His family's still in Bloomington. He has to go all the way down south to help recruit with Tim Walton and Ryan Day and help get Caleb Downs to Ohio State. He said he'd already met Caleb Downs before. They had a bit of a relationship, so that helped. And again, it goes all back to the relationships, knowing these guys, having a comfort with them, and they were all able to get the deal down and get Caleb Downs here into this building, and he offers everything that you would ever want. But Matt Guerrieri said it's coaching every guy the same, whether they're Caleb Downs, whether they're Lathan Ransom, or a new guy who's just come in. It's the same mentality to coach them all. But you're right, that safety room is really loaded. And the question is, how can you get better from a group that was already very good? He said playing as one together, they can do more consistently this season.
I tell you, get better is you bring in Caleb Downs. I mean, are you kidding? I mean, it's like, and I asked him some point-blank questions about him at the end of the interview situation. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's obvious to everybody. Just turn on the video. Like I keep telling everybody, watch the Georgia game. Watch number 2 in the Georgia game. And, he made a couple of mistakes, but he also made some hellacious plays. And he's arguably the best safety coming back in the country, right up there in that list, right? And but like you said, you can't anticipate things being as they were. You have to nurture that along and stuff. And the improvement this spring is going to be interesting to watch, even in Caleb Downs.
We talk glowingly about the safety room, but it's in the same defensive meeting room as the linebacker group that has a lot to prove. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat it, but we're also not going to beat these guys down. Like, Cody Simon's never been the full-time leader of this group. Now he has to step into that role. Is he capable? James Laurinaitis said today that he regrets not playing Cody Simon more last year, which is a huge statement to make considering Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg were both with this program last year. That's how confident he appears to be in Cody Simon. It's definitely something worth exploring. We'll probably do that at LettermenRow.com.
Do you agree with me? Cody Simon earned his spurs. I mean, that in an interesting dynamic there, he earned his spurs. He earned the praise that he's getting now, but he earned his playing time. Didn't just get plugged in there. I mean, that's what stands out to me about Cody. I'm sure we'll talk about him later in the spring, but I just wanted to throw that in there because that's a guy that everybody in the room can look around and go, hey, you bust your butt, you're going to play.
Yeah, but then there's other guys in this room like C.J. Hicks and Gabe Powers and Arvell Reese and Peyton Pierce and Garrett Stover and even down to Nigel Glover, who transferred in from Northwestern last year. Like, there's a lot of guys in that room, but there's not a lot of experience at all. And so, James said point blank, does Cody Simon need a lot of reps this spring? No, he doesn't. So that means that the onus is going to be on C.J. Hicks and Gabe Powers and Arvell Reese and, as Tim likes to say, right on down the line to all get those reps and feel comfortable playing, because James Laurinaitis needs those guys to be ready, and his job is to get them ready in his first year coaching and in their first year as major contributors for a defense that at every other spot returns the starters. And so it's a huge spring. As important as it is for Matt Guerrieri to get the safety room right, he kind of already has it right because it's so good already. For James, it's almost the other side of that coin where you know that the talent's there, but you don't know if the talent is going to equate onto the turf because you haven't seen it on the turf yet. And so there's an interesting juxtaposition between these two coaches that we talked to today, Andy, and I just think that, you put those side by side, they're both really talented coaches with very different jobs to work through this year in year one. Yeah,
they're going to be measured differently because for Matt Guerrieri, if there's any slippage, it's going to be like, well, what's happening? Whereas for James Laurinaitis, he has a little bit more wiggle room to see growth, right, with some of these players that are still developing. And I think that that's really key. And as you mentioned, C.J. Hicks, someone that we haven't seen the full potential yet. We've seen little plays here and there. I know he had a couple bad snaps in the Cotton Bowl, but that wasn't a big enough sample size to judge. Like, we still have not had that full sample size. Didn't play one defensive snap his freshman year, and then limited last year. So it's just trying to figure out what he can really do. But you know, there's guys in this program like Josh Proctor, right? Because every year, what can he do? What can he do? Kind of in a similar sense. Yeah. Finally puts it all together at the end of the day. I mean, you just never really know when some of these guys are going to have it all click at once. So there's always a chance. Gabe Powers is someone that I felt like was super impressive last spring, and someone that could step up. Yeah, special teams as well. And so some of these guys we've seen little flashes here and there. It's going to be the consistency, because that's what Cody Simon did. That's why he earned his time. Yeah. It was consistent play over time. He even outsnapped Still Chambers in that game against Purdue. And the Cotton Bowl, I thought Cody Simon was brilliant. And yeah, he's just a leader.
Yeah. And Gabe Powers, for example, I mean, James went out of his way to delineate his improvement from the spring all the way through, all the way through December in the Cotton Bowl, just a progression. So that tells me he's on the right track if he, maintains, obviously. And it is funny how he kept using that word, the same word we were hearing about C.J. Hicks this time a year ago. All right, boy, you ask a guy, a linebacker anywhere in the country to do A, B, or C, and he can do it. But it's the word he kept using, coming back to, was the consistency. That means lining up right. That means making the right read on your keys, etc. Don't get carried away by what's going on over here. Do your thing. And I think it's a critical spring for C.J. Hicks. But I just remember leaving spring last year going, when we got to watch him, holy smokes, wearing number 11 looked like Micah Parsons. Well, that translated into the fall, and then of course it really didn't. And they're sitting on dynamite right there. Now they got to figure out the trigger. He goes off at the right time at the right place, and because they could be a real demolition squad. I just carried that analogy all the way through.
There you go.
But this defense could be a real demolition squad with the talent that's coming back, that opted to come back, the talent that's come through the door, and then the talent that's sitting there that's still developing. I mean, C.J. Hicks, I think, is as keen for us to watch as anybody this spring again.
And the first time he makes a tackle, Tim May will be in the press box saying boom goes the dynamite. The fact that he made it through an entire analogy means that we need to get out of here before he tries to start another one.
Yeah, no kidding.
But the last thing that I will say.
That one ran out of steam.
Quick wick, Tim. If there's anything James Laurinaitis is going to do, it's play the best players. Because if there's one thing he knows, it's that stars, once you get on the campus, the stars kind of don't really matter. He's a 3-star kid from Minnesota that was a 3-time All-American. Yeah. So, just because a guy's highly ranked doesn't mean James Laurinaitis is going to throw him out there. Right. They're going to have to prove it to him, just like he proved it to Luke Fickell and proved it to Jim Tressel that he could be trusted that early in his career, and then he became an All-American. I think that's a really interesting part, and that's where we break here. Tim May, the 41-year veteran, Andy Backstrom, and me, Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you want more of this coverage, go to lettermenrow.com. We've got it all $1 for your first month. You'll love it so much the pricing won't matter after that, I promise you. But for Tim, for Andy, I'm just Spencer. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the latest practice report. We'll see you guys over at lettermenrow.com.